Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you another way of creating panel cuts using random flow in Blender. So the default result of the random operators in random flow can already be considered non-destructive. So for example, if we use random panels, this is already non-destructive because the details are put into a separate object and not the source mesh. The topology of the source mesh is untouched. But what I'm going to show you in this video is that we're just going to deal with the panel cuts as the separate object, and we can see through the details and actually see the source mesh by getting rid of some of the faces in the resulting randomized mesh. So the way to do that is random panels. Let's choose something like square 100% angle that actually creates faces, or those inset faces in the panel islands. So panel islands being the separate islands that make up the random panels. Okay, so to do that, or to do the other way of creating the panel cuts, is we're going to clear faces, or to the clear faces property, and toggle on inner. But first I'm going to use even offset to keep the inset extrusion straight. So what the clear faces inner does is get rid of the top faces or inner inset faces in the panel islands, and leave only the faces that are in the panel cut detailed areas, as you can see here. And in reverse, outer gets rid of the faces in the panel cut areas and only leaves the top or the inner faces in the insetted face or extruded face in the panel islands. So you can do something like this. Okay, let's go back to inner. So with inner, you can see that we have the panel cuts. Now we can just adjust the since we're not dealing with randomized inset depth, we're going to toggle on the uniform depth right here. And since this is 4.2 and the UI bug hasn't been fixed yet, in order to refresh this, I have to close it and open it again. So you see, now we have a single value controlling the depth using the uniform depth toggle here. You can read all about this in the online documentation. The link is in the preference of the add-on and in the product page. Okay. Depth controls the height of the extrusion, and we have thickness, which controls the scale or the width of the panel cut. Now we're going to render this and see the result. As you can see, the panel cut it's pretty obvious that it's a separate object. Although we can already see the source mesh underneath it. And also using this method saves up on resolution because we only have the faces in the panel cut areas to deal with. So that's a good one. And to make the illusion complete, we go back to the review panel and toggle on floater mesh. Now you can see that the panel cut details look like it's a part of the mesh or the source mesh underneath. But in some angles, you can still see the illusion breaking up, particularly in this area. But for angles like this, you can see that the illusion is quite undiscernible, or the trick cannot be seen using certain angles, particularly at a distance. Then you can't really, if you have the pixel pip, you can't really tell what's going on. Okay, so how is this done? Okay, this first off, this only works in cycles, and when using the floater mesh toggle, the some of the cycles proper visibility properties of the randomized mesh gets turned off. So in the visibility section and in ray visibility, you can see that. Okay, let's click on this. So you can see that in the ray visibility, only the camera is toggled on and diffuse glossy transmission volume scatter and shadow is turned off. This way, the randomized mesh cannot contribute or react to the light, to what the light rays is. Let me rephrase that. The randomized mesh cannot contribute by means of diffuse glossy transmission volume and shadow in the scene, particularly to those objects that are close to them. So for example, if I turn on shadow, you can see that we can already tell that the panel cut is a separate object and not, it doesn't look like a part of the source mesh. So, but if we turn this off, and the illusion is complete. Okay, this only works in cycles for now. And since cycles is getting developed more and more, I think we might have to see this kind of thing in Eve in the future. Also, I would like to see the bevel node work in Eve later on. Okay, so this also gets parented to the source mesh when you have in settings, you have the parent to source toggle on. This is on by default, and what this does is if you randomize on a source mesh, then it gets parented automatically to that active object. So this is really good for our panel cut, so we don't have to parent it manually, and you can move it around. So the trick stays with the source object. Okay, so the advantage of this is that if you don't like the panel cut design anymore, you can just click on it and then delete and randomize again. Oops. We have to select all the faces. There we go. So if you're dealing with a large object like a spaceship maybe, and it has too much resolution, don't select everything and use the random panels. It will probably freeze Blender because this cannot operate on really high selection. What you need to do is pick certain areas of faces at a time, then use the random operators. So do it sparingly on certain areas of the mesh at a time or in intervals, not the whole mesh, if the mesh itself has a very high resolution. Okay, so what about manual panel cuts? You can still do it, but you have to use panel cutter. Control E, mark sharp, so you can design your panel cuts using the mark sharp edges. Don't worry about the additional edge cuts. As long as we're not extruding or digging in, it's okay. You can just delete those stuff later in the or mark sharp edges later once we have the panel cuts. So panel cut, inset, inner, and floater mesh. There we go. So with randomization, you can try, or you can use random flow, but with manual panel cuts, you can use panel cutter to create the non-destructive panel cut details. Okay, let's try it on my sample mesh. So I modeled this earlier just for this video. And we're just gonna randomly, or not randomly, um, select some areas or put the panel cut details on certain areas and not entire mesh, or use it strategically. In set, I'm going to adjust the thickness and the depth to make it subtle like that. Play around um, with the properties. Just use the original resolution. Probably use triangulation. So 30. Okay. What radio? Okay, so something like that. And a good thing about this is that you can layer this. Um, you will have the same inset depth, but you can stack it, stack the effect. Oh, then use another setting. You can stack the effect and create like, or use different subdivision for each stack to create another loop. You have this kind of Star Warsy panel effect, and they're all non-destructive. Thirty. There we go. Shortest. And that's good. Let me see. For manual stuff, I think it works like this. I think. Uh, Mark Sharp, Final Cut. Um, I have to include this. There we go. But you have to select the border edge and delete it. Then you're left with this one. There you go. But I think the Final Cut has no Final Cutter add-on doesn't have the automatic parenting, so you can just parent that manually. Okay, so you can have the basic design of your object just to be in the background. Then you can detail that using this method. which is going to be a lot lighter than actually using the default operation. Let's just hide this. So the default operation, which is with the top faces without clear faces inner, and using this one. So we use this one because if we want to use the depth property to create the details, to drive the design using geometry and not just use it for panel cuts. There we go. And and you can also use this for, and if you have this, if you're modeling like this, you're using basic shapes, then um, randomizing it, then on top of this, you can still use the same effect that I'm using. So we're going to use the out key event. Remember the out key event on the past videos. So basically, you press out, and while pressing out, click on a random operator. This only works on random operators that deal with geometry. There we go, and set, and clear faces inner, and non-uniform, uniform, I mean. So you can use it on top of, uh, there we go, on top of the first layer of randomization that you are doing. So basically another form of layering, like I've shown you in the past videos. The out key event also works in object mode. You just have to trust it. As long as you press the correct key, it will work. There you go. We can make this subtle by adjusting the thickness and the depth. There we go. So you can avoid the if you're using the inset depth. I mean, yeah, if you're using the default result, which is clear faces none, you'd have the top faces existing. So this, with layering, this kind of basically increases the height or the thickness of the main design. So with this method, with just the panel cut details, you can avoid that. There you go. So it's also perfect for spaceships, and also you can bake this. So whatever you see in the viewport as render detail, you can bake it. This, you can bake this as normal map or displacement or depth map. Okay, so that's how you do the clear faces inner non-destructive panel cut in Blender using random flow. Let's see if it works with Eevee. I haven't been using Eevee for a long time, so probably, maybe this will work. Let's save, and material preview. Maybe I should have just used cycles and use material preview. It will take a long time to process the material because the whole material setup is engineered towards cycle. The grand shader nodes that I'm using is for cycles. Does it work? No. There are shadows. You see there are shadows on the ambient occlusion. Maybe if we can, maybe if we can disable the ambient occlusion for this object, and this will probably display shadows when there is actually light in the scene. So yeah, but as you can see here, maybe if you can properly with the proper placement of the asset and the lights, this will still work with EV. Yeah, it can still work with EV. Why am I saying EV? But with cycles, perfect. Okay, so yeah, that's it. I have actually done it. I don't know. I can't remember if I've done it in shorts or a full video, but I'm just doing this video just to refresh the playlist list, playlist list, the playlist, and actually put this kind of method on top again. So people who are new to the add-on can see this old technique. So you can layer again. You can layer the using the method. You can layer it, and you can create variation by, for example, in the first stack or not layer stack, you have one subdivision. The second layer has two subdivision, which means more faces, more detail. So it kind of creates this more detailed effect. So you have the big shapes from stack one and the smaller shapes from the stack two. It's like we did with this one. And yeah, and you can, if you want this as a texture map, you can use Grable Bake to um, use this method on a primitive plane and then just bake it and then use it as texture on your model. But if you're just there for speed, you can use geometry. So when you're finished with your project, you can just delete this. Okay. Yeah, so that is it for this video. And I hope you learned something new using the add-ons. Subscribe and hit notify to learn more about them, and also like the video to get more people to view them and help me as a developer. And visit my Patreon. If you want free stuff, just become a free member. And I will be more active with it soon, as when my um, photogrammetry setup has arrived from the United States. It will be here soon. That will allow me to take pictures of textures and also create photogrammetry objects without any problem, because I'm using the ring flash that eliminates the shadows, and I think that's much better than any other flashes that you can use with the using the same process. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions, use the comment section again, and the links in the description. And also, thank you for watching, and you have a nice day.